surviving all of the bad weather in California, man. Unfreaking believable. But we are going to be talking basketball today. And again, the one and only Jerry Reynolds coming up in just a minute. And yes, we do like NBA basketball. Jerry, how are you, sir? I don't know you. I know you have a place up in Tahoe, and obviously in Roseville. Are both your structures intact, Jerry? That's what I'm concerned about right now.
Yeah, we're great shape here in Roseville. Being where our home is, we certainly had some little trash damage kind of thing, leaves and twigs and things, but nothing to speak of. And so it's all good here. And as far as
Yeah.
Tahoe, I'm not trying to get up there to even see until
Yeah.
the road's clear.
There are a lot of rain down roosters in California, aren't there?
Boy, there are now. It's been tough. We certainly need the rain
Yeah.
and fill the reservoirs, but boy, we could do without this wind.
All right, Jerry, it's the same old story. I shouldn't say same old story. That would be maybe a little unfair, but the same story with the Kings. A lot of bad losses at home. This, to me, has already been a bad homestand. I didn't think you should have gone any worse than 4-1 in this homestand. You're already, 1-2 with a game tonight against the Rockets and one more. It's just so puzzling, the bad home losses the Kings have had recently. We can go back to a couple of weeks ago. Charlotte, they were playing awful. They had the worst record in the East. Washington had lost 11 or 12 coming in. I mean, we just saw it with Atlanta. The Lakers were playing their third game in 4 nights, second of a back-to-back. It's kind of puzzling, isn't it?
Well, it's disappointing for sure.
Yep.
The thing that is consistent lately is poor defense.
Yeah.
And you take some weak teams like Charlotte or the Washington Wizards were. I mean, one thing they can do is score if you don't guard them. And
right.
I mean, the Kings' offense is terrific. It's been terrific every night, but when you're gonna give up a lot of easy baskets, which they're doing, you're going to be in games. And so I as early in the year, we saw really improved defense, and really the last 10, 15 games, it's been right at the bottom.
Well, you just made a point that to me is rather interesting. This is the NBA. If you don't play defense, just almost any team can score. I mean, last week, the Oklahoma City at home scored 150 points against the Boston Celtics. Go figure, right?
Yeah, and that's the way the league is. I mean, good teams are going to get beat by bad teams. That's always the case. But and the fact that it's almost impossible to guard people. I mean, the league is geared for offensive players. They get all the breaks. But saying that, the Kings have to do a better job of denying straight line drives into the paint. I mean, to me, it's as simple as that. It's not about. I mean, Sabonis is not a great defender, but you could have him a tumble back there. If you got guys driving to the basket, he's going to be in foul trouble, and or dump offs for somebody for dunks. So I think it's simple. They've got to do a better job. The wings and guards staying in front of people. Davion Mitchell can do it, and so stay in front of people. Let them, if they move the ball side to side or whatever, that's fine, but not straight ahead.
Okay, so break it down even further to me. Is this the fault of individuals not trying hard enough? Is it fundamentals, technique? Is it team-wide? I mean, for the fans, they want to know what's going on. How do you see it? Break it down for us.
I don't think it's lack of effort. I mean, I think they could do some things different. I wish they would pick up the guards a little quicker before they cross the line, to make them use the clock a little bit. But then it's a matter of, I think, just focusing on the fact that stay in front of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care if they go right. You don't care if they go left. I mean, but what you can't do is let them go straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that would solve some of the problems. And then if if Coach Brown were going to ask my opinion, which I wouldn't expect him to because he's way smarter than me, but I think they ought to play more zone. Uh, I think you could protect the basket better. You'd give up more 3-point shots,
Hmm.
but I think I'd rather give up 3-point shots now than drives to the basket. And I mean, I'm not saying you can play it 25 minutes, but I think they could play a zone 20 minutes and maybe be more effective. And somebody asked me, said, "Well, what isn't there a risk in doing that?" I said, "Wait a minute, they're ranked 29th in the league in defense.
Yeah.
So please explain what the risk is."
Yeah, yeah, there is no risk because the last time I checked, there are only 30 teams. There's no question about that. Um, Mike Brown made a comment last week that I thought was interesting. It was after the Lakers game, and he's talking about how good they are offensively, and he said, "But we are absolutely terrible defensively." And then I think it was tongue in cheek, obviously, but he said, "Well, maybe our guys think they're so good offensively that they can just outscore people every night, and they're getting in bad habits." And there may be some truth to that. But Jerry, we've been around this league long enough to know that's not a recipe for success in this league, particularly when you get into the crux of the schedule, which to me is after the All-Star break. If you should make the playoffs, you would have no chance of winning playing defense like this. So, I mean, I don't know if you call it bad habits. Maybe it's bad habits. Maybe it's a false sense of security. All I know is what we know, and that is you're not going to win consistently in this league playing defense the way the Kings play it.
No, that's it in a nutshell, because this team plays offense well enough to win 45, 48 games. Right now they're playing defense at like a 25 win team.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty clear here. Just get and I thought what you said, Mike Brown talking about maybe falling in love with their offense. I think it's some truth in that. It's
Hmm.
like, well, we can just go score. Well, yes, you can, but at some point, if you don't put up a little bit of a force factor there, and you're going to lose games, and that's what they've done. So I have a lot of faith in the coaching staff. I think they'll sort it out.
Well, to me, it's all about 3-point shooting on offense. We talk about that. That is league wide. The game has truly changed so much, even over the last 10 years, that on nights when you're not making threes, you need something else to fall back on. And the reality is the Kings don't have anything to fall back on when they're not making their threes.
No, no, this team, I said early in the year, and I think I was right, is that they win when they make threes with a winning percentage, above
Hmm.
36%. When they have an assist to turnover ratio of better than 2-1, and their bench is effective.
Hmm.
And a lot of times here recently, the bench hasn't been effective. They've turned the ball over a little more, and of course, and they have to have all three, I think, going at the same time. But we saw early in the year they can do that. So you know, but I mean, the bench seems like as Malik Monk goes, the bench goes, and so
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
factor.
All right. As far as all-star voting, listen, that's the system. Everyone knows that the fans have no idea what the hell they're doing when they vote. We get that. But generally speaking, every year the correct players are added to the team. Generally speaking. Now, you're always going to get one year where one guy's on the borderline that doesn't make it. But for the most part, the players that deserve to be on the all-star team are put on the all-star team. So I think we need to stop talking about the fan voting. They only vote for the starters. To me, Sabonis should start on the all-star team this year. But even if he doesn't, which he won't, he's going to be on the all-star team. Fox, I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, there's so many guards that
Yep.
really are top level, and
Yep.
then some guards that are going to be put on there based on what they've done in their careers. A Chris Paul, for instance, is probably be put on there. He really hasn't merited, but still, yeah, it's a tougher route for Fox, but Sabonis is, like I say, other than Jokic, I don't know that there's
Yep.
been a better big player in the West. I mean, certainly, Davis is when he plays, but he hadn't played enough.
Well, there's no question he hasn't played enough. We appreciate the messages via the chat line. And we talk about injuries. We talk about the Kings have still been very lucky on the injury front, including the injury to Sabonis, which was lucky because it didn't sideline him. I mean, you want to talk about injuries. Look at how the Phoenix Suns have been without Devin Booker, Jerry.
Oh yeah, I mean, uh, they're just not the same. I mean, he's a guy who can go get 30 every night, and they just haven't been able to replace that. And you didn't really think they could consistently, and they haven't. Uh, that's where the Kings have been so lucky, and I'm knocking on wood here because Kings
Yep.
have been the healthiest team in the league. I
Yep.
think every other team has had guys out for a lot of games. So just and certainly this team without Sabonis for 15, 20 games
They're done.
would be a thought that I don't want to have.
No. This individual wants to get your thoughts on Kevin Huerter, who, by the way, is questionable tonight with a non-COVID illness. But what's your thoughts to this and his game and what he's done for the Kings?
Well, I think Kevin's a good basketball player. You know, he's more than a 3-point shooter. I think he watched him a lot at Atlanta, and I think he's a little better basketball player than I thought he was. You know, he plays off the bounce pretty
Yep.
good. He makes passes. He tries, you know, he's got some toughness about him. I like that. You know, got a little shitbird in him.
Uh-huh.
And you know, now physically he gets overpowered some, but he is definitely part of the solution with the Kings and not part of the problem as you go forward. He can be part of an awfully good team.
Well, he's from New York. You know, he's a Giants fan, he's a Yankees fan, so I don't think we need to really add anything else. You know, he's a good guy.
No, that sums it up right there.
Uh, Interesting question. All right, so what is the key to getting the team to play better defensively? Is it possibly the roster? Do they need to add a piece to make those changes?
I think they can do better with the roster, and the reason I say that is because we've seen it. Early in the year, they were like in the middle of the pack defensively, 14th or 15th, whatever. So they've proven they can do it.
Yep.
And a lot of those games are on the road. So I think they can do that. And I think Coach Brown and his staff are capable of coming up with some plans, if not maybe stubbing a little more on defense as opposed to offense, I think would be one. And as I mentioned, I would like to see him play a little more zone. I think tempo changes. This is not a good defensive team, so you know that going in. And so try to show the other team maybe 2 or 3 different things because
Yep.
they're getting too comfortable playing against you.
Well, I mean, we're in the same situation tonight, and we'll have the same thing in 48 hours. I don't care whether you play zone, man to man, whatever you play. The Houston Rockets are the worst team in the league record wise. They've lost like, what is it, 14 out of 15 or some number. There is no excuse for not winning both these games comfortably. There really isn't.
No, none. You're exactly right. Now, and the scary part is they've got several guys that can really go off and score.
Mm-hmm.
And if you let them get going and let them hang around, you know, Milwaukee went into Houston and got beat just because of that very
Yep.
thing. And so if I'm the Kings, you know, Jalen Green and Porter and
Yep.
Jabari Smith. Well, those guys are capable of putting up big numbers if you let them.
Yeah, if you don't guard them, they're going to score. Sea Dog wants to know, how aggressive do you think that the Kings should be at the deadline with not too many guys out there?
Well, I think Monty is going to be looking. It's going to be tough to make a deal at deadline, I think, without really hurting the core of your team. And I think that's a factor because this team's not likely to win the championship anyway.
No.
So it's a work in progress. You know, this is a team that's way better than any of us really thought at the start of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope they'll stay and get better as we go. But this is a team will have to have some adds and subtractions as we go. We know that, and I suspect it'll be hard to do what you need to do at the trade deadline.
All right, let's bring in Ryan in Sacktown, who is going to join us. Ryan, gut feeling, here we are, you know, the trade deadline next month, not this month. What do you think? Roll the dice. You think the Kings will make a move? I mean, do you think they should make a move? Do you think they need to make a move?
I'm with Jerry. I do not think that they will make a move. There, like C-Dog said, there is not a lot of players out there, which is going to inflate the price for a player at this point. that may not help the team greatly. So I think they need to focus on what they have right now and retool in the offseason and fill those holes.
Yeah. All right. I'm with you on that. You weren't expected to win the championship this year. You're not going to win the championship this year. Do not jeopardize the future. Do not mortgage the future just because you need to end this 16-year drought. You can worry about that this offseason. You've already fixed this team a lot. Do what you have to do this offseason for next year. That's the way I would go. I think that's the prudent way to do it. I know you have a very anxious fan base, and I'm also going to say you have an owner who has put, in my opinion, unrealistic expectations on the general manager for this year. So that all factors into it. You have a very impatient, meddling owner. So don't discount that at the trade deadline either. That always factors into it. And Jerry, without even talking about Vivek, you've been in that situation before. You've worked with different owners. And so, you get pulled at in all different directions when it comes to trades.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I think there's no such thing as an owner that's not involved with the basketball operations for the most part. That's why they buy teams.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
all, very few are out front as Mark Cuban or something. But then again, Cuban really knows what he's doing. So that's one of those rare ones. So yeah, there's always different viewpoints, and it does seem like that. I like about Monty McNair is whatever he's thinking about, you don't know. He's a lot like Jeff Petrie. Whatever rumors are out there weren't started by his group or him.
Well, and that's important, I think, as well. All right, let's talk about the game tonight. Ryan, again, Kevin Huerter is questionable. I think the Kings are more than suitable to make up if he doesn't play. The positions they can't make up are point guard with Fox and down low with Sabonis. They can get by a game or two or three without Kevin Huerter.
Yeah, certainly they can. And Kevin's been somewhat inconsistent as of late, but has been shooting the ball better. So I think that, it'd be a good game to get Mitchell some extra minutes and get the defense pumped up, to be honest with you. I fully agree with what Jerry said. Start picking up full court. So I'd like to see them hold them to under 30 in at least 3 of the 4 quarters tonight.
This is an interesting message from Sea-Dog. And Jerry, it has to do with Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes seems like every year he's one of those guys that we hear about possibly being moved. But when you really break down each and every game, he does so many things for this team. And you and I both know this, Jerry. He's phenomenal off the floor as well, in the locker room, with everything else. And I think sometimes, not all the time, I think sometimes his game is underappreciated by Kings fans.
Well, I do. I agree with that. I mean, I think with Harrison, part of the Harrison's problem is he's just a pro, and he doesn't go jumping around beating his chest and make a basket and celebrate for a half hour. He just makes a basket and runs down the floor. But he's the reason there's rumors about Harrison every year is because a whole bunch of teams would like to have him.
Great point.
And that's one of the reasons why you probably ought to keep him unless you can get something better.
It's a great point.
I feel like in a couple of years, probably the small forward on this team will be Keegan Murray. I think that is his actual position.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but even there, I'd probably depend on situation. If you got the 4 that you needed or wanted, you could always use Harrison because he can play both. And, he's always, and I think that's how teams in the league see him. They see him as a real valuable guy who could start on really good teams or play off the bench on championship caliber teams.
Jerry, tell the fans why you think that about Keegan Murray.
Well, he's not a physical guy, and he's not going to be. He's clearly a terrific deep shooter. I think he does remind me of the guy that he kind of focuses his game on, Chris Middleton. I think he's a lot like that, or will be like that. And I think in the next couple of years, you'll see him be able to play off the dribble more. He's not a real good rebounder. He can be a good rebounder for small forward, but he'd never be a good rebounder for a power forward.
Interesting.
So, I just think that's the way it has to go eventually. I mean, it doesn't have to now. I credit the coach and staff. I think they're bringing him along extremely well, but his rebounding is just not at the level you can even project going forward as a power forward.
Ryan, as we approach the halfway point of the season, if you were to give a letter grade for Keegan Murray, what would you give him for the first half?
Oh, that's a great question, Grant. I would give Keegan a B minus. So Jerry, like he was saying, the rebounding is a concern. The aggression is a little bit of a concern, but he shot the ball very well from beyond the arc, and people discount. He's pretty much started every game that he's played. And there is a consistency that he does bring to the game. There's a calmness he brings to the game and the team. So for a rookie, B minus so far.
Jerry, you think that's about right?
Yeah, I might even give him a little higher. I might give him a B because I do think he's you about any kind of way you look at it, he's got to be one of the top 5, 6 rookies, and you can case that he still is the top 3. He's playing on a winning team and shooting the ball well, and obviously he fits well with this team. He's an unselfish guy. Fits well with their stars, Sabonis and Fox, and don't discount that because there's a lot of rookies that would not be interested in fitting with them. They'd be interested in taking their jobs.
It's a great point. If you are on the stream live or you are watching it at your leisure, do us a favor. Hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already done so. We appreciate that if you would hit the subscribe button. Jerry, what do you think overall as we do approach the halfway point of this season about this rookie class? As expected, a little bit better, a little bit worse? How would you analyze it through the first part of the season?
I think it's a little bit worse than I thought. I mean, but that happens every year. It's like the hype gets out of control.
Yep.
With the college guys, and each guy's going to be the next LeBron, and common sense tells you no. These are young guys who have to grow into being professional basketball players. There's no difference makers in the draft day one. There may be some difference makers in year 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But so that's the way I'd say it. I mean, maybe next year's draft with Wembanyama, there may be a difference maker, but I never really see it all Chet Holmgren or Jabari Smith or any of these guys that were going to step in and make your team 10 games better. Like some of the greats of the past, the David Robinsons or Jordans or Birds that simply once they laced them up in Jabbar, you were 10, 15 games better at least.
Yep. I don't think the Kings are going to be hosting or a Golden One Center will be hosting an All-Star game anytime soon. That's my opinion. First of all, there aren't enough quality hotel rooms, and I'm just going to call it the way it is. Downtown Sacramento is a dump right now. I mean, I hate to say that, but it really is. There are a lot of issues. They're not going to want to bring, and I mean this. I say this. Would you want to bring the rest of the country to downtown Sacramento right now with all the problems? I mean, just walking 2 or 3 blocks in downtown Sacramento right now is uncomfortable. I was there recently in the middle of the day twice in the span of a week, and I couldn't believe it. I was just blown away. So in my opinion, no, they will not be bringing the All-Star game to Sacramento anytime soon. But the number one reason is they don't have enough what they call first-class hotel rooms. I know people don't believe that, but Jerry, you and I are blessed to travel to every city in America, and that just is the case. That's the truth.
It really is. I mean, that it's certainly improved in a lot of ways, but it's got a ways to go. And when I first came to Sacramento, I was always amazed. The downtown reminded me of Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten a lot better than that, but it's still, and like you say, it's all about hotels. And
Yep.
And I've told people, and I mean, it's the truth. French Lick, Indiana has about 1,000 first-class 4-star hotel rooms.
Yep.
And because it's a resort, but it's like, I mean, that's that's just the reality of it.
Yep.
I mean, and they always talk about, well, they could use Napa and they could use South Lake Tahoe. Well, that's not feasible. Nobody would want to do that.
No, I mean, if you were going to use Napa, you would just not go to Sacramento for an All-Star game. You would go and just hang out in Napa for a weekend. That makes no sense.
Yeah, or you would make it the Chase Center. You know?
Or exactly.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. No, it's too bad. It's too bad. I mean, the fans certainly deserve it, even though the Kings fans would get very few tickets. I
Yep.
mean, that's the other part of the All-Star game that I think a lot of people don't understand is
They're not going to get to the game. No.
Yeah, they're not. You're going to watch a game on TV if you're going to see it for the most
Sure.
part. And of course, as you know,
Well-
my love of the All-Star game measures on zero. They could have
but-
it in my cul-de-sac out front, and I wouldn't watch it.
But here's where all the Kings fans could participate. The NBA does a great job on All-Star Weekend with all of their events that aren't in the arena. They would set up the convention center. They would have a phenomenal experience for families and fans. And again, I've been there before. The NBA, it does a A++ job on that. So there are things that would be going on surrounding All-Star Weekend that all could partake in.
No,
Yeah,
doubt.
they make an event out of it. It's
Yeah.
it's no question. I just wish they'd figure out a better way to play the game, and and I have basically the dunk contest and 3-point contest. I think could stand some changes, and when they make me commissioner, I'll put them in.
Ryan, what were you going to say, buddy?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say no doubt about that. I think Sacramento's closer to an All-Star game than we've ever been before. But, yeah, they've got to do more with downtown. And, it's not going to cut it putting boats on the river, which they talked about before. So
Why do you think they're closer than ever before?
I think they're trying to revitalize that downtown area. Obviously, Doco is finished off, but there's a lot of construction going on right now. There are new buildings going up. So, it is a different time too, Grant. I'm not saying that the NBA players are going to do Airbnb, but there's a lot of nice condos that are down there now where people can rent them out if you're someone coming from out of town.
Yep.
So we're closer than we've ever been.
But that's not what the league has a list of requirements, and it does not include those type of housing arrangements. It is all about hotel rooms.
Right.
It has nothing else to do with, Airbnbs, whatever. It's all about hotel rooms. And Sacramento currently is significantly below that threshold that the NBA needs. The NBA, the amount of people that come in for All-Star Weekend is huge, okay? And we're talking about representatives from all the teams, yes. We're talking about fans, yes. We're talking about the other dignitaries. We're talking about an immense amount of people that would be coming into your city for a period of basically 4 nights, okay? And right now, Sacramento does not have enough quote-unquote first-class or quality hotel space to accommodate the need of the NBA. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, basically they need a rich 400-room Ritz-Carlton.
That's correct.
That would be
Yeah,
that's
them
right.
close.
That's correct. And that's not going to happen. You're not going to see a Ritz-Carlton in downtown Sacramento. You might say, well, why not? Well, because I'm being realistic. When we go to Charlotte is a great example of a area that when I go there, I'm like, how does this team have an NFL team? How do they have a basketball team? How do they have everything else? They have a beautiful downtown. And they have hotels everywhere. There are conferences in Charlotte all the time. There was a political convention in Charlotte. I can't remember for which one, but they had a political convention at the arena. They have a spectacular Ritz-Carlton downtown, but they also have other first-class hotels, so they can accommodate anything they need. I mean, think about that. They had a political convention at the arena in Charlotte a couple of years ago. All right, so Sacramento is, in my opinion, leap years away from a city like Charlotte. And if you don't believe me, go spend a weekend in Charlotte and then come back to me. The difference between Sacramento and Charlotte is like night and day.
Well,
Night
you
and
can
day.
say, and you can say that about Indianapolis
Oh,
too.
Indianapolis is one of the most
it's a
amazing
smaller
cities in
market,
America.
but they've got
Oh.
tons of 300 and 400-room hotels, first class.
They
Of
hosted a
course, they
Super
have all
Bowl.
kinds of
They
events
hosted
there.
a Super Bowl there. Think about that.
Yeah.
A Super Bowl.
So
Yeah. Indianapolis, seriously, has turned into one of the most, in my opinion, enjoyable cities to visit on the NBA circuit. Everything is condensed into an 8-block area. There are excellent restaurants. There are first-class hotels. It has everything that I look for in a downtown area. Downtown Indianapolis has done a marvelous job. See, and that's, Jerry, I'm glad you brought that up. Sacramento is not even close to Indianapolis, in my opinion. It's not even in the same
No.
conversation.
No, not at all. And I mean, you can walk to all those hotels and restaurants and
Yep.
and arenas without ever going outside.
Yep, that's correct.
In bad weather. So it's no, and it used to be when I was growing up, downtown Indianapolis was the worst. It just wasn't. Nobody went there.
Jerry, when I started doing the Kings games for the first 2 decades, it was the worst. No one wanted to go to Indianapolis, and then they put a plan together. I mean, if I had told you, Jerry, even in 1990, or if I had even told you in 95, Jerry, you know what? I'm going to predict that the Super Bowl is going to be played in Indianapolis one year. No, really, think about that.
Yeah, I just said, well, you finally, it's finally over for you.
Yep. And so, Ryan, Sacramento has a lot of things that are positive. First of all, they have good weather, although we wouldn't know it now. But
Right.
so they for people that would want to go for All-Star Weekend and make a day trip, let's say on one of the days that they're visiting, to go to Napa, yeah, that's great. You can get in their vehicle and you can be there an hour. That's a positive as well. But downtown Sacramento is not even close to cutting it because of hotel rooms. Doco would be phenomenal for an all-star event. You could do a lot of great things on the space in Doco and have a lot of events in a lot of the restaurants there. But again, other than 2 or 3 hotels in downtown Sacramento, one being the Sawyer now, which is, a nice hotel. You have the Sheraton, you have the Hyatt. But I mean, you don't have enough quality rooms, and that's where we're at. So
that's both of you are right. You're the experts on that, but yeah, they are closer than ever. Let's put it that way, because they have the arena.
Yeah. Well, the arena is a very large selling point in all this. Don't kid yourselves. I mean, the Golden One Center, I think Jerry and I can objectively say this. If you don't think it's the best arena in the league, I'm okay with that, but it's got to be in the conversation in the top 3. I don't know how you can have a objective conversation and not put that arena in the top 3 in the league.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it really is. I kind of think it's still the nicest, but
I do too.
Yeah, that part. I think the league would like to put an all-star game here, but they just can't.
They can't.
That's the bottom line. I think when they can do it, they will.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to also fix downtown Sacramento. I mean, that's an issue as well. All right, let's get back to the game tonight. If we're on tomorrow, Ryan, and we're talking about the Kings lost another game at home, it's unacceptable. I don't care who plays tonight for Sacramento. They need to be on the airplane going to San Antonio with back-to-back wins against the Rockets, Ryan. That's it. No other. I don't care how they do it. Anything less than 2 wins here in the next 48 hours is a disaster.
Absolutely, Grant. No ifs, ands, ors about it. They've got to come out, and like Jerry said earlier, they can't let them hang around. That's what bugs me, especially against these subpar teams. They let them make the runs in the second quarter, third quarter, and they're within 7. Then the Kings push it to 12, and they kind of flirt with that line. No more of that. They need to be dominant, and they need to come out and play like they're playing the number 1 team in the West.
Yeah. Jerry,
yeah, these are the two worst teams in the West, and if you have any aspirations of being a top 8 playoff team, you have to beat these teams. That's all. I mean, because things are too close, too bunched up in the West, and these are games you lose, you can't make up.
Yep. Jerry, I mean, I think that the Golden One Center is the best arena in the league now. That's my take. I like the Pfizer Arena in Milwaukee, but and I went and toured it, and it's spectacular. I think they did a great job on that, but I think the design of Golden One Center is so unique with the entrance And when it's nice, the doors are open, and there's really nothing about the arena I don't like. I think it's beautiful. I think they did a great job.
Well, and I love it because it's still built for basketball. The sight lines are still basketball sight lines, not hockey. And I'm not anti-hockey, but any arenas like what used to be Staples Center,
Yep.
where you have on
Yep.
the end zones, you're not part of the game even. And
Right.
here you are. So I kind of base it on that. But I do think I like Orlando's arena for a lot
I
of
do too.
reasons. I think
I do too.
it's really right at the top. But I just from everything you said, the beauty of the thing from the outside, the uniqueness,
Yep.
I think it makes the number one.
Ryan, have you been to the Chase Center, Ryan?
I have not. No.
Okay. They did a nice job. It's not one of my favorites. It's not. Again, it's a nice arena, but I don't walk in there. It doesn't knock my socks off. Again, it's nice, but I can't put it above Golden One Center. But again, this is subjective, and that's just my opinion. I'm not crazy about it.
Sure. Well, I think Golden One too, what we don't give enough credit for is kind of given a blueprint for the new arenas in the NBA now. A lot of teams have seen what we've done in Sacramento or Sacramento's done, and they're trying to replicate the same, whether it's, different things within the arena or how it functions. So, but I'm with Jerry. Staples Center is a nightmare when you're behind the basket. You're
terrible.
You feel like you're upper deck, even though you're in the lower bowl.
That's terrible. All right, so let's real quickly talk about just the rest of the NBA. Jerry, a lot of teams in the West are really struggling right now. Portland looks lost. Phoenix without Devin Booker, although they beat the Warriors, but they went through a horrible stretch. New Orleans looks like they're surviving without Zion Williamson. Memphis is Memphis. Denver is Denver. Dallas is Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, this West is completely in the middle of it, is up for grabs. Even the Jazz struggling. They did have a nice win against Cleveland last night, but the teams right around Sacramento seem to all be fading right now.
Yeah, it is interesting. The thing I look at is home record, road record, and who's played. And it's like, I think with Portland, they've played about 6 or 7 more road games than home games.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I wouldn't count them out yet. And so you always kind of think now the Lakers have played more road games. And so what scares me is the Kings are 3 games out or 5 games out of first and 3 games out of 12th.
Right.
Yeah. And so
with no
as
injuries,
you pointed out, I mean,
with
it is
no
bunched
injuries,
up.
with no injuries.
Yeah, with no injuries. So there's a ways to go. And like I say, the Kings have got to shape up, win games that they're supposed to win, and shape up that defense, to a degree. I mean, the offense is fine. You can win with this offense, but you're going to have a tough time winning with this defense consistently.
Yeah, you can't really compare Madison Square Garden to any building in the league just because of the history of that building. They've completely remodeled Madison Square Garden, so it doesn't look anything like it used to. But New York it's hard to explain. When you walk in there, you can feel the energy in the building. It's very unique, even when the team stinks, which is normally every year. But Jerry, for obvious reasons, I used to love going to Madison Square Garden. I mean, it's just a special place. I would imagine you loved coaching in that building when you were coaching.
Well, no, I didn't like coaching in there much because we'd always get beat. But yeah, it's a thrill. I mean, it is Madison Square Garden. To me, it's just like going into the old Boston Garden.
Yes.
I mean, that was more of a thrill than going into the new place. But with the history and all that, I mean, you can't replicate that stuff. And now certainly the Madison Square Garden is really nice as well. But I just loved from a broadcasting standpoint where we got to do the broadcast from.
It was the best.
I mean, they
really moved it across. They
treated
moved it across the floor now. Did you know that?
Oh, I did not know that. Well, now that we're not doing it, I don't care.
We don't care. And here's the other thing, Jerry. You would not be able to get that New York City pretzel in the press room anymore, or that popcorn. They don't have a media room anymore for eating. They give every member of the media a $25 voucher to use at the concession stands. So, and I haven't been to the concession stands at MSG, but I would imagine that might include one hot dog and a soda. I'm just curious for $25 at that building. You know what I mean?
I was going to say Diet Coke and popcorn would take care of me.
Oh my God. Anyway. All right, gentlemen, we really appreciate it. Ryan and I will be on tonight after the game right here on YouTube Live. Jerry, have a great week, buddy. Have a great week.
Well, thanks. We'll be following the rain, and Ryan, you and Grant just give 100%. That's what we're counting on.
Thanks, Jerry. Have a good one, bud.
All right, Ryan, appreciate it. We'll see you after the game tonight, buddy.
Thanks, Grant.
All right, good stuff right there. Also want to say that we are coming to you thanks to New Works Plumbing of Sacramento, locally owned for over 20 years. New Works has a fix for you for your plumbing needs and repairs. Just go to sacserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. Again, we are back with you tonight, right after the game. If you have not yet hit your thumbs up button, please do. And we would really appreciate it if you would subscribe as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining us right here on If You Don't Like That with Grant Napier. Bye-bye.